So before I get started, I have one shout out, and that's Hook It Up Homestead. I think that we got to start getting an intimacy with food, growing your own food, and learning how to grow your crops. If you don't get good at that in 2025, try to write yourself a schedule to get good at some things. I can grow some zucchini, and hopefully I can still grow tomatoes to eventually barter, because I'm not a huge fresh tomato person. It's got to be mixed in something like a chili, which I, with my husband, recently made another pot for me to eat it. So this is my shout out, because the thing about it is we know some stuff is about to go down. So let's Hook It Up Homestead. Please go subscribe to her channel, learn how to grow things, learn how to have a garden in your own yard, so that when things happen, at least you're growing something that you can either barter or things that you eat on the regular. Now back to our regularly scheduled program. For all intents and purposes, the year 2025 will not be a good year. I don't say this is gloom and doom, and I don't say this to upset anyone, but we're moving fast towards 2030. And we're already starting to see the results of what happened when you don't prepare for things. Understand that this video, I'm going to break down the 10 things I think you should start doing right now. Not just for this year, but going into 2030. And I'm going to talk about the 3 reasons, well, 2 of them, and then the third is a combination of the 2, why I think you all would rather be entertained than to deal with it. So without further ado, I'm going to give you advice. You can take it, you can leave it. But what I will tell you is that 2025 is not a wait and see year. 2025 is a proactive, not reactive year, meaning that once you see things for what they are, you've got to believe it and you've got to move. Number 1, cash. I don't care what anybody tells you about a cashless society and crypto. There are still many areas in the United States where you're going to need to do cash, even if it is to barter. So my advice, if you can save a few dollars every paycheck full of cash, then that's what you need to do. That's how we got to move out here at this point, because this isn't going to get any better. Don't believe people, oh, the penny is going away. You're going to need cash to barter with. Because at the end of the day, you go to some of these back towns, you may still even have to pay gas in cash to get out. What happens is if the system collapses and you run out of gas and you're somewhere and you need to get back to where you need to get back to, you're going to need some cash. Depending on where you live, I can't tell you how much that's going to be for you. You're going to have to know that according to your living situation. Okay, because that's going to vary from state to state what you may need cash for, but you're going to need it. Okay. Number 2. Preparing to be your own apothecary, if that means growing herbs, if that means making your own tinctures that are safe, and also having a first aid kit, which I have one. I'm glad I finally bought one. For minor scrapes and cuts, you're gonna need that, because you just don't never know. You don't want infections and sepsis and all that to build in. Even on Amazon and all these people talking about a boycott, no, y'all gonna have to find some way to get a first aid kit through some website, even if it's a small business that sells them. You need to get a first aid kit as soon as possible and have it waiting just in case. It can be one of those little pocket ones you even get at a discount store, and we'll roll into that right now. Number 3. Your discount stores, dollar stores. This is going to be your lifeline to get non-perishable things, to get simple things like deodorants and all that stuff you're going to need. While dollar stores are still around and while some of the prices are still reasonable, you need to stock up on things that have a long shelf life that you may start using soon as possible, but can also last you down the line, okay? Now is the time to go into those stores and stock up on things that may help you in the long run. And I don't care what people say, well, the dollar store is cheap, but some stuff you get in there can last you for a while, even if it's cheap. So don't let people feed you the hype. If I were you, excuse the burp, and you're listening to me on YouTube as we speak, I would go look up the YouTubers who have bought prepping stuff at dollar stores or have bought things at dollar stores to show you how to create meals or how to create medicines. Those videos exist, and it's up to you to go do that homework. We can't do it for you. I can't do it for you. It's up to you to go do that homework now. There's time and there are ways on the cheap to do things for your family that's going to be efficient. Okay? Me personally, it's going to be spices because I love spice in my food, so I'm going to have to stack back up on all of that. But the point about it is get to the dollar store, get what you think your family uses often on the cheap, and do it that way, okay? Or any discount stores. Just don't be in Costco being those people who overly stack on stuff and get selfish about it. You don't have to get selfish about it. Now to segue to number 4, non-perishables, which you can find in discount stores. So I recorded this on the 9th of March 2025. And for under $3 at your big box grocery stores where it's supposed to be expensive, I still got a big significant bag of black beans for under $3. But for the first time, I noticed something significant. Those bagged beans are starting to disappear now, which means some people are starting to get common sense. They're not panic buying, but they're getting the fortitude and common sense to buy a little extra. But heck, if you gonna leave that big bag of black beans are my jam. And you want those type of non-perishable foods. There was plenty of rice there too, which shocks me given the current environment, okay? So that's the stuff that can last for many years. For you, it may be lentils. For other people, it may be chickpeas. Go look up recipes right now. Learn how to cook that stuff while the grid is still up. Because with what's going on with the tariffs and all this stuff, what's going on with people losing power, I've been monitoring the situation and finding out that some of this stuff may affect me in Washington State. But I was smart enough more than a year ago to start prepping. So non-perishables, things that are going to sit on in a cupboard for long periods of time, like rice and beans and your favorite canned foods. Prepping doesn't have to be intolerable. You can find finely cut green beans in cans for cheap if that's what your family mostly eat. I'm not a corn person anymore, but you might even want to stock up on that if that's your thing. Even for me, I've also bought a big bag of flour the same day, which is the day I'm recording this, which is the day in case I have to make homemade things from scratch. Because we're going back to the 1800s the way things are going. Figure out your non-perishables. Figure out the ones that's going to work for you. Even oils. We just cook with olive and avocado. So I've got to stack up on some more avocado for me before summertime. Number 5, sales. When I say sales, I don't mean going and just buying a lot of junk that's not beneficial to you. I'm talking about the opposite. You finding things of value in your home that you no longer need. So you don't mind either having a yard sale or going to something, putting it online on Craigslist, selling things you don't need anymore. I'm practicing what I preach because some stuff is about to get out of my house at the end of this month. I have no reason to keep it. I was collecting certain things for years, and then when time came, I was like, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and sell this. Believe it or not, I don't care what people tell you. This is still a buyer and a seller's market. Some people will still buy things. And trust and believe, if I think I can sell it, I'm going to. So you need to look into things that you reasonably know you're not going to use anymore, but that you can sell. Okay? Even certain clothing that's you don't necessarily need. Okay? That takes me to number 5. Just as you're selling things that are secondhand, you should also buy secondhand. Don't go to these big stores. You're hearing about these closings, so it gets tempting for you to just go hoard and hog things that half of you aren't going to really use or need. So that being said, you need to be careful about going back to these big box stores and spending money. But if you are going to do that, find a way to at least sell some of the stuff. This is why you've seen my videos of me going to all of these local markets, and we'll touch on the number 10th part about why I do that, so we won't talk about that right now. Get it out of your head that there's a shame in going to yard sales and going to different markets and buying long-lasting things. The farther you go back in this country's history and buy this vintage stuff, the better quality it is. Same can be said for a lot of things that are antique. Some of that stuff is way better quality than what you're buying right now. And you're going to have to be willing to spend a little bit more to keep quality for a long period of time. Because things aren't going to get better, and buying cheap is not always the way to go. That's why I added secondhand as the 6th step. Number 7. Look around your environment and analyze your water sources. You'll need it for drinking, that is obvious. You'll also need it for bathing, okay? So I continuously keep water coming to my house. At first I was going to ask my husband to knock it off, but then the water kept coming, and then I'm looking on the news and I realized, oh snap. My refrigerator is tied to the electricity and stuff, and that spigot. Not to say that it would stop working. What happens if the grid stops working? So I have plenty of water, and I also want to buy that one thing, I forgot what you call it, where you can purify unpurified water, because my Patriot Supply has it. Okay. This is the biggest essential you're gonna need. So get it out of your head that you're not going to need water. Find some way and little bitty ways to start stacking it now, because this was a mild, for example, winter. Who can say what the summer's going to be? Just that coming up along, because we're already pushing towards spring. And so your water resources around you, you need to analyze them, and you need to have it prepared and be ready. I would say you should have at least 2 weeks worth of water stored. Some people say a lot longer than that, but it's all about buying yourself time. And if you are poor, please try to have at least 1 week so you can buy yourself time. Because I feel like with all of these tariffs that the transportation is going to come to a stop to a certain degree, and it's just not going to be good. Number 8, your little furry companions, pets. It knocks out my nerves that when people escape these deadly storms and stuff, you know this stuff is going to hit land days ahead of time, like hurricanes, or you were given warning and you leave those pets to fend for themselves. That's not cute. Which is why I also keep a bevy of pet food coming in case transportation temporarily stops. That way sugar can be decently fed until things lift, if they ever lift, and it gives me time to think about what I'm going to do next for her. So that includes the fact that we even have her on rotation and have prepaid some of her vet visits. And she's vaccinated for her rabies, so she's good to go. You got to get your pets good to go, ready to go. And if you can't take care of them, please go find them a wonderful home with someone else that can. It's not fair to that animal. So slowly but surely buy a little more extra in case, because this is a bad year and I don't think it's going to let up. And so take care of your pets and be ready. Number 9, community food sources. This one is where I'm going to tick people off. If I asked you all to think of where your local food banks were, would you know where they are? Would you know their opening hours? Would you know the limits? Because some have limits. Despite what they tell you, food banks aren't unlimited, and they cannot be, because they have to serve the whole community. So when I say food banks, I mean plural. That means to go visit multiple food banks at once. Do you know how to get to them? Do you know a contingency plan in case you get stuck? Okay. Do you, like I say, do you know their hours? Do you know what they mostly carry? Because sometimes some frequently can carry fresh fruits and vegetables. Do you know your local co-ops? I know we have one in my county where, though the stuff is expensive, you can buy things that are specifically made from farms in Kitsap County. And it would take me to get to Bremerton 15 minutes to get to that co-op. What is the closest meat monger to you? I have one right here up the street. I mean, God is good to me. And but not all of you have that. So if you're living in a food jungle, would you have someone who can take you? Have you coordinated with anyone to take you to a food bank or drop some things off for you in case you're suffering with gas and things? Farmers markets. This is where I'm going to make you mad. Well, the farmers market's too expensive. So with these tariffs, what happens when trucks quit moving? And I'll give you an example now. I love avocados, but I've had to cut them out because of the price of them, because a good chunk of our avocados come from Mexico. And the thing about that is that now when those trucks quit moving, you have to understand you're going to pay the price for geopolitics. If you haven't started growing food yet and you have farms with an overabundance, you're going to be giving up money to eat until your crops start to grow. I'm not saying this is going to happen in 2025, but I am telling you, you might want to consider farmers markets, despite the fact that some people have complained that they're too expensive. Excuse my burp. Community food is going to become important. This is where you're going to have to think local and stay thinking local, because those are the cards you're dealt, and that's what it is. Last and certainly not least, networking doesn't mean you just have to extend within your own borders. Who do you know on YouTube or who you've met online that's outside of your community that may have a product or service that is useful to you? Because in your network somewhere, you got to have at least one person that's not from your hometown that you can count on at the end of the day that may be an outside source to help you. See, the reason I brought up number 10 is because I've been going to these events and you all see the secondhand stuff, and it's just to encourage you all really to go out and do those things. I spent a great bit of money at that event, and I have no regrets, because I need to know who the local farmers are, where I can get certain things like homemade from scratch pottery, which people go, oh, that's so expensive, but it's a payoff to me, because if I want to do that type of shopping and I break something, I know I can go buy it from a local person who makes their own pottery. We only tell ourselves this isn't necessary because we don't want to spend the money. But it is necessary even for an introvert like myself to go out and do that kind of networking, because you're going to need it. But you can also network with people online you've met, know their skills, and know how you can all help each other. Because so long as there's still a United States Postal Service and flat rates, you can still send each other things. These are all things you have to flesh out. Okay? You're not going to get through this without community and networking. That just is what it is at the end of the day. Why did I make this video, and why did I list the 2 points and then the third point that touches on those 2 points? If you're listening to me right now and you haven't started preparing, that's because you like being entertained. YouTube is nothing more than entertainment to you, and you don't take what's happening in the news seriously, and you're doing this wait and see. And what's going to happen when you wait and see? You're going to be in long lines at the grocery store panic buying. When COVID happened, I can remember people at the grocery store panic buying and me going straight to the produce because most of what I needed was already at my house. Now, that doesn't make me any better than anyone. I'm just saying that the news is telling you the trajectory, and we know now that 2025 is going to be worse than 2020. So where are you in your preparations? You don't have to buy a lot of stuff. You just need to get enough, I would think, to last you at least a week and give you time to think about what you are going to do. See, y'all like being entertained, or you get in your own head. There's 2 reasons you haven't moved. It's either fear, ego, or a combination of both. And let me break it down. Your fear is, I'm scared to move because I planned for this one stream of income, or I didn't plan for things to go bad this year, or I already bought this vacation, or I wanted to go this, and this. Your fear is paralyzing you. I'm not making fun of you. That is a rational human emotion. It's not doing you any good, because the thing about it is that these things are still going to happen whether you want them to or not. The second one is ego, and this is the worst one. As you sit back and wait and see, right? Well, I know this person said this about layoffs, or I know this is happening, but that's not applicable to me. Because you've gotten yourself into the attitude that you're safe where you are. Safety is no different than security. It's an illusion, and it can change anytime due to geopolitics or internal politics in your own country. The worst type of person are the one who get fixed in their ego. That ain't applicable to me, so I don't need the plan. I'm gonna wait and see because I think that I'm different than everybody else. If you're not a billionaire in this country right now, you're no different than anyone else. Look at what's happening in Hollywood. People in Los Angeles trying to figure out how to rebuild their homes, and you thought these people were super rich, and that fire taught you that a lot of them don't have nearly as much money as you thought they did. Dots are not being connected here. It's either fear, ego, or a combination of both. And let me tell you something, fear is not an irrational human emotion. I think ego is, because ego is built in stubbornness. This has nothing to do with me, and I'm in this position where I'm safe. And I've seen in the past few weeks where people who pretended one thing are starting to crumble, and every little thing scares them. Why? Because they lived off their plan A only and did not plan for additional stuff, and then look at me crazy like, why are you not panicking? I'm like, you don't know what I do outside of work. You don't know what I do on my weekends. You think you and I are friends, and I'm talking about in general. I'm talking about an innuendo right now. This is when it's a good thing to not tell everybody about your preps and everything you do, but to give some generalities and good examples. I'm telling you this not to fearmonger you, but I can tell you right now, 2025 is going to be a sucky year. We don't even know past summer what hurricane season's gonna be like. We don't even know what tornado season's gonna be like. We don't even know if we're gonna get a heat wave yet. There are so many unknowns that it's better to prepare for the knowns, right? Go out and buy that aloe vera plant. Go out and get those extra bag of beans. They're cheap. It's not gonna hurt you. It's the price of what you spend all day on a vending machine. Don't tell me I'm lying. You know that's the truth. Hide that extra $2 or $3. You may need it. Either way it goes, we need community, we need each other, and quit waiting for personalities or cult of personality to come save you, because no one's coming to save you, babe. And if you need an example of that to snap out your ego, look at what's happening with the victims of Hurricanes Helene and Milton. And that's all you'll need to know that there is no knight on a white horse. Get yourself together. Get proactive, not reactive. Find ways to squash your fear and put that into action. Lose your ego entirely, because it's doing nothing to you but keeping you in a safety net and in the delusion that stuff is not applicable to you when it is. Right now, it's still the month of March. We haven't rolled into the summer, which is my predictable time that things are going to start to really get bad. And they will get bad. Get prepared. It's going to be a bumpy ride. And be ready for whatever's coming. Y'all take care out there. Let me know in the comments if you want to. If you are doing preps, you don't have to get into detail. All right. Thanks. Y'all have a good one.